what we wanted to do a little differently, myself and Rosanna got together and we talked about how we can make this thing more impactful. So we've had several of these again over the last year. And the last one I think we had about 50 to 60 people show up, but they wanted to ask questions. They were talking about how can we, ask questions. Myself, I'm a social worker for the county, she works for the city. We do this thing, but we're not the people who make the decisions. And so they wanted to be able to have people who make the decisions who can be able to give them legitimacy. What's the word? Yes, let's say that word again. Yeah, legitimacy. So it can be more valid, right? And so what we decided was that we would have some of our elected officials come and talk to you guys, answer questions. So this is an opportunity for you guys to ask them questions, particularly our business owners, okay? If you have a business, if you run a business, particularly we know what's happening. Yeah, we'll do that at the end. We have a few questions we're going to ask now, but at the end you'll have the freedom to talk to these guys, ask them questions, find out what you might want to know, find out particularly about your business, okay? We know what's lacking in Asheville, North Carolina when it comes to, there's stickies on your table. So if you want to write them down, we can actually ask those questions as well. We know what's lacking here when it comes to businesses, the disparities with that, the gap, so it seems like we have a gap in everything, our education system, our business system. But in order to bridge that gap, we can have people who can at least hear what you have to say and also give feedback to that. So with no further ado, I'm going to pass it to Ms. Lynn, and then she'll be able to get us started.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lynn Michelle. Some of y'all know me as one or the other. And what I want to do is introduce Councilman Young. Can y'all give it up for him for the light side. Thank you for coming. So we're going to play a little pass the mic. So I'll be asking questions, Keenan and I'll pass off, and then you guys can kind of pass it and answer. So the first thing I would like for each of you to do is to explain your official role with the city and county.
Yeah, my name is Keith Young. As a city council member is kind of what you would look at as a board. You have a business and you have a board. When you look at local government, the city council is more or less the board of the city, and we instruct the city manager as to what policies we would like implemented. The city manager handles the day-to-day of the city operations. That's somebody who is in there every day dealing with the city staff and all sorts of things that go on with the city's day-to-day activities, keeping trains on time, etc., is what people would say. But it is basically our job to pass policy on a high level and make sure that the city manager carries out that policy and make sure that the city is operating in a way that is efficient and that serves the public good. So that is my role as a council member, as well as interacting with people in the community, coming to different events, talking to people when I see them, being responsive to telephone calls and emails and things that happen from the ground up, being able to be a conduit for people in the community on how to get their ideas expressed on a policy level, and be a champion for those sorts of ideas. Now, there are other council members. I serve on the board with 6 other people, that's including the mayor. The mayor is pretty much she runs the meetings. And there's a few other things that the mayor does as far as working with staff. But generally, the mayor is looked at as, I would call a ringmaster of meetings. And so the other council members have the same responsibilities as myself, and they work in the community as well with other people. I'm not necessarily sure if you see all of them, but they do have the ear of other individuals in the community, as well as this community, and they should be doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Good evening. It's good to be here with you tonight. This is my 5th stop for the day. The only good thing is I'm close to home, so which is good. I get to see all of you. When we talk about the county, we are the purse strings for all of the municipalities in the county. We collect the taxes for them. We control the almost $400 million budget. And we have to clean up the stealing too, which we've done. But What I is one of the 7 commissioners, there's 7 of us. You have the chair who's elected countywide, who's Brownie Moon. He's elected by the whole county. Then we're divided into 3 districts. I'm right now representing District 1, which is made up primarily of the city of Asheville. It's 2 of us. Well, it's the city of Asheville, parts of Woodford, and some of Swanee North, too. My partner in crime, so to speak, the other commissioner from District 1 is Jasmine Beach, I'm sure you know. And we have in District 2 Amanda Edwards and Mike Fry and Joe Belcher and Robert Presley in District 3. So that makes up the 7 commissioners. Now, even though we're in districts, we work together. You know, I get more phone calls from outside of my district, I think, sometimes than I do from within. Unfortunately for me, in some ways, I know it's really fortunate, you know, by me spending 40 years in banking in the community. I have former customers from Sandy Mush to Broad River, you name it. You know, I've worked with people. But our job primarily as commissioners, we have the budget to approve, and we set, like the councilman of the city, we set the policy. We hire a manager to run the day-to-day operations of the county, and she's responsible for working with our a little over 1,600 employees now. So that's on a quick, you know, pretty much that's how it's set up in the county.
Thank you.
So I thought I might give a little bit of information, so I can kind of, for those who might not know, the city did a study in 2018, and it was a study that came back where it was $118 million that was displaced from businesses, $115 million went to white-only businesses. I think it was like 1.3 million went to Hispanic, and 590,000 went to black-only businesses, okay? And so I think during that time, the city paid $310,000 for the study to be done. So and this was over 5 years between 2012 and 2017. That's what really got me involved in this work, particularly, you know, being a social worker. The county hasn't even done theirs yet, so I don't even know what that number would be for the county. But when you talk about disparities, when you're talking about missing opportunities, particularly, you know, $590,000 over a 5-year span, rather than, you know, $115 million going to our counterparts, it's actually criminal, to be quite honest. And so we have to really start focusing on how to support our black and brown business owners in Asheville, North Carolina, in order to have any type of not only revenue gain, but a staple in this community. And so when you're writing down your questions, please, you know, you got 2 people here who are pretty versed in what they do for the city and the county. So make sure you're asking good questions, make sure you take the time that they're given, because this is your opportunity. This is an opportunity for you guys as business owners to really have people at the table, you know, and can even go back to talk to their counterparts about what the needs are.
Thank you, Keenan. So, Councilman and Commissioner, I would like to have you guys explain the capacity and limitations of an elected official. I think sometimes you may find that expectations may be unrealistic in your role, so you guys want to expand on that?
Thank you for asking that. Limitations and expectations, and I would say, being on the out, before I got elected in 2016, well, elected in 2015, started serving in 2015. On the outside looking in, you look at everybody that's in public office and you feel like you think they should be able to do everything. It doesn't matter, you know, what sort of role they're in, whether it's local government, state government, federal, whatever. From the outside looking in, a lot of folks look and think, well, you're my council member, you can do anything. You can stop climate change. You can appropriate different types of unions between people, whatever it may be. And so when you get on the inside, whether you know it or not, you have to be able to articulate to the people that you serve with that there are limitations to the ability of what you can and cannot do. Based on the local government level from the municipality that I serve with, the city of Asheville, there are some limitations. The limitations for me as a council member is specifically to how can I affect, and I think about it this way, how can I affect change on the local government level within the constraints that I have of working within the city of Asheville? So when I have policy that I want to put forth, I always want to make sure that, you know, how far can this policy go? Is this policy just for the workers of the city of Asheville, inside, you know, if you work for the city of Asheville? Or is this policy going to be overarching into things that businesses might do? So we can't put constraints on businesses. I can't tell a business that they need to pay you $15 an hour. I can't tell a business that they need to have a certain bathroom. I can't. Those are not things that we can do. What we can do is control what's under our umbrella, such as Ken talked about the disparity study that we implemented in 2016, which would be to the extent of our minority and business, women business, our minority businesses and women businesses that contract with the city of Asheville, and what type of contracts they get. Can we change policy on that? Can we set policy to say, hey, we would like to see some more contracts go to XYZ businesses? Yes, we can, with the disparity study. Can we say, if you come to the city of Asheville and you want to apply for a job and you have a criminal history, should we make you check a box that says, you know, I was a felon, that could possibly, you could possibly be discriminated on? Yes, we can change that. We can change hiring practices. We can open up new departments in our city, such as our equity department, that can kind of be not a watchdog, but kind of make sure that whether things are directly or indirectly people are being discriminated against, they can look at that. So the limitations that we have on a local government level through policy action is kind of, it's not easy to say. It's not easy to come in here and say, what can I do policy-wise? What are my limitations? We deal with your roads. We deal with your water. You know, we can set different policies for that. We just passed a bond a couple of years ago that says we want to allocate $25 million to affordable housing. We can set limitations on, we just did a hotel ban for a year, moratorium. So we can do some of those things with inside the city limits of the city of Asheville. I think when you talk about what are the limitations of a policymaker, it really depends on what the specific ask is from the community. And in that way, like when people are starting to ask me questions, can you do this? A lot of times we don't necessarily know what our own limitations are. We go to legal quite often, our legal department, and say, hey, can we do this? Can you research this for us? Sometimes they come back and say, we don't think so, and I'll go, can you push the envelope? So limitations are really going to be dependent on what the situation is, what the ask is, what the policy is, but it's really restricted to local government and what the city of Asheville can produce policy-wise and ordinance-wise. We do produce ordinances that are laws, so that's kind of that. I'm looking forward to the questions so I can be more specific on what I'm talking about. But that's pretty much it.
You know, one of the advantages I have is living in the community as long as I have. And two, when it comes to limitations, the only limitations I worry about is what we cannot do legally. Everything else, you know, when you're a politician, it's up to what you have the guts to do. And I think what's helped me more than anything, spending 40 years in banking, and when I started, I was a Lone Ranger, so to speak. And when I became a county commissioner, what was so discouraging to me in December of 2016, we had the county manager, had all of us in a room, and all the department heads and the assistants and all. And she asked me after the meeting, how did I feel? I told her, I don't feel good at all. She said, why? I said, this reminds me of 1971 when I started in the management program for First Union and attended my first management committee meeting. I was the only African American in the room then, and here we are in 2016, I'm still the Lone Ranger. She dropped her head and said, what are we gonna do? I said, what are we gonna do? It's your job to correct this. You've been in it for 20 years. What have you done? I said, you got I said, I'm here to support you. And believe you me, I will be behind you, pushing. But we've got to do this. And I think really a lot of it when you're in politics, you can't think about, and I could care less about being reelected in 2022. But what I do care about is doing something while I'm sitting in the seat. And not thinking short term. A lot in politics, we don't think about the decisions we're making today, how it's affected. Sometimes we're thinking short term, but I'm thinking generation. What are we doing that's going to affect, I hope my grandkids will be talking about, yeah, my granddad was one of the ones that pushed for us to get universal pre-K in Buncombe County, like they're doing in Mecklenburg County. But these are the things that I see, that you've got to do your homework. Everything they give me, I read. They know it now. Sometimes I can get away with it because they think I have, and I always have, but I do. And I think the key is, though, when we're in politics today, you can't look at Washington and Raleigh. Locally, we've got to have a moral compass and really care about the people we represent. And it's not rocket science to be a successful politician and to get people to go along with you. It's basics, folks. We've got to do the right thing. And if we do the right thing, we're going to take care of everybody, all the citizens in Buncombe County. And let's face it, when you look at us as African Americans, we've been getting too long the crumbs. But that's what you get when you don't have somebody at the table. But I'll tell you what, they will let you know. I make it known where I'm coming from and what I want. And I've had several commissioners tell me that I remind them of a pit bulldog. And I told both of them, and I will fight. But you've got to really stick up and fight for the right thing. And when it comes to businesses, I'm looking forward to questions too, because look, we get the crumbs. When you look at the city or you look at the county, crumbs. When you look at the hiring practices, even though we have the county manager who's African American, well, she's from Barbados, the city manager who's African American. But the thing about it is, when you get below them at the county, we're not represented. We're not even the 6% we should be of the 1,600 people if we're going to be represented. And it should be more than that when you take black and brown. But this is what, I'm about, is doing the right thing. Sure, I might hurt some feelings. I don't care. My feelings have been hurt for years. It's time to turn the tables. But we've got to speak up. We've got to be active. And we've got to do the right thing. And what bothers me more than anything is we have got to show up. When we're discussing what we're going to do for small businesses, and I'm talking and pleading our case, now look out for ordinance. Somebody there. When we're looking at key positions that we appoint people to, we got to sign up. Because in order to be successful and to get things done, we have got to be at the table. We've got to be represented. And even sometimes when we're at the table, they forget we're there and you have to remind them. But this is something that we have to do. And here we are in 2019. We have got a long way to go. And coming from the civil rights movement in the 60s, folks, in some ways I think we're retrogressing. And one of the reasons for it, we're not standing up and demanding that we get our piece of the pie. We're taxpayers. I've been paying taxes in this county ever since 1971 when I moved back home. I'm a property owner of several pieces in the county. But it's time for us to stand up and demand this. And this is what I do as a politician. You know, I know the limitations. I know what I can do. But the key is, sometimes we have to get outside of the box. And I will push that. I don't care. I don't mind. The things we've been doing for years are not working. We need to change what we do to make sure they are working. And what's bad and the most surprising thing for me is that it's not only black and brown people in Buncombe County who are being affected. It's a whole lot of poor white people too that are being affected the same way we are. So all of us, we got to make sure that we're being equal, and the way we spend the tax dollars is that it's proportionate, and we dole out the dollars to be with equity, to be equal, where everybody is treated the same.
Before we ask our last question, and then we'll do some things, then we'll do Q&A toward the end of the program. But I just wanted to press pause and let you all know officially, these are the people that voted in and hired our first black city manager and our first black county manager. We just want to thank you for that.
I also want to give this, I wasn't paid to say this, they didn't pay me, y'all can. After, I wasn't paid to say this, but keep in mind, folks, we only have 2 African American officials on the city council and 1 African American on the Buncombe County Commission. Okay, so again, when you're asking your questions, keep in mind that they have other counterparts and they got to go and vote. They can't just make decisions by themselves. Okay, so it's not like you tell Mr. Whiteside or Mr. Young your issues and they can go back and make this magical dust happen and you get what you want. They got a whole committee to go through and again. When you're dealing with politics, it's only like 1 and 2. And so they got other people who are going to be making votes and stuff as well. I want to make sure that we got that clear. The question for me that I was going to ask was, I'm actually going to modify my question. It basically originally said, how do you feel or think about the opportunities related to black and brown communities in this community in Buncombe County? The question that I want to ask is that, after I thought about it, and I think you kind of alluded to it, initially here, Mr. Whiteside, do you guys feel like we can make progress or is progress on the horizon for our black and brown communities with the disparities that we're facing here in Nashville, North Carolina? You want to do it first last time, Mr. Whiteside?
Come to think, I know we've got to make progress. It's a must. But it's how we do make the progress. Let me give you a good example. In the county, we set aside this year 1 cent tax dollars, which comes to about 3.6 or 7 million. I'm holding the exact cents for pre-K. And one of the reasons we're doing this is when you look at the disparities that we have in the schools, they call it an opportunity gap. That's bull. It's achievement gap. Opportunity gap is when you have the opportunity to do something and don't take advantage of it. I can tell you from 8 years on the school board, our kids don't have the opportunity gap in the schools. So we still have an achievement gap. And I'll argue with any member of the education or whoever on that. I disagree with you. But we have set aside the 3.6 million so that we can make a difference from birth to about the 3rd grader in that range. Because this is where we're losing our kids, folks. This is why we have trouble when you get kids to the 9th grade that ask for the schools in the county, high schools, they can't read. Something's wrong with that problem. But not only is it worth the money we're spending, and that's why I'm not going to stop, and we'll hopefully get it in our strategic plan that we're doing now for the next 5 years, that we'll get universal pre-K for all of our kids. And folks, we can pay for it, because when we start at the young age and we're being strategic in the way we're doing it, it's going to save us down the road when it comes to our jail population. It's going to make a difference with health care, because when you educate the people, treat them, teach them how to take care of themselves, how to eat properly and all that, and that they can get a good job. That's when you take care of affordable housing and all that. So I think it really starts with these kids, and that's where we got to go. And we got to also get other partners involved. We can't do it all, the city and county, but we've got to get the other institutions in the community. We've got to get them on board. We've got to hold our banks accountable when we're talking about small business loans. Come on, folks. You know, I know what that's like, because I've been on both sides of this. And I think all of us have got to work together in the community, and we can knock down these barriers in real estate. In some ways, and I hear it every day from people, black and white, we're still redlining, so to speak, telling people that you don't want to go there with the schools your kids have to go to, for different reasons. And I think that's where we can get big help as politicians. We got to hold these people accountable. Because when they come to me asking for help on the economic development side, I ask them, okay, what are you doing with your hiring practices? You know, we have put teeth now for the first time in our economic incentives. We give businesses coming into county the way, one, they have to pay a living wage, and two, we want to look at their hiring practices, that they're being fair and hiring everybody. But all of this comes into play. You know, we've got to make sure that we get the whole community involved. Because look, you know, a chain is only strong as its weakest link. And what we do, and when we're doing the right thing, it brings us all. Businesses are going to make more money. They're going to keep them. They won't have the employee turnover they have. And the schools will eliminate a lot of the problems. But until you start doing it and being genuine about it and not just window dressing, and this has been our problem in the past. We've been doing a lot of window dressing. But now it's time to do make real changes, but we all have got to be patient, because, you know, I found out while I was in the Navy, I was in navigation. You can change a turn to destroy on a dime, but an aircraft carrier, you need a lot more room to turn. And we're trying to turn things that have happened over several generations, but we've got to start, and we've got to keep it up once we start.
So you asked the question, you said, rephrase that question, because I want to answer it, but I want to make sure I get all the points.
So basically, what I said was, how do you both feel about the opportunities for black and brown people in Asheville, and is it gonna change? Are we in a place now where you see it changing on the horizon, or are we still gonna be stuck in this rut that we're in now with all this experience?
Y'all want my politician answer, or do you want the real answer?
Real
Of course you want the real answer. When I came into office in 2015, I'm just speaking from the city standpoint, the majority of council were, I believe, 4 white men. Jan Davis, Gordon Smith, Chris Pelly, and Cecil Bachwell. No slight to any of those gentlemen. But when I came on board, we're sitting here tonight talking about black and brown businesses. We're sitting here tonight, Keena referenced a disparity study that didn't happen until 2016. We're sitting here tonight and we're actually having a conversation with 2 African-American political figures in our city and county. When I came on board, a lot of the stuff that was started, I see a member of our equity department right there. Can you raise your hand, please? I'm a single Eli. But what I'm saying is, when I came on board, a lot of the stuff that we are talking about now, a lot of the things that we are doing now, when you start talking about all the different policies that were passed, from ban the box to people being able to use housing choice vouchers to buy a home, to people talking about the affordability of the city that pertains not only to low-income white folks, but black folks as well, Hispanic folks as well. These conversations were not being had. This was not on anybody's radar. The disparity study, when I came in, was not on anybody's radar in any serious way, let alone being funded. Our equity department was not even, we didn't have an equity department, we didn't have an equity manager. We didn't have a black city manager. We didn't have a black assistant city manager. We didn't even have good roads to drive on that affects us too. We didn't have a real, in my opinion, strategy for home ownership for affordable housing. We didn't have any of these things. And so when you ask, what does it look like on the horizon? I say, I'm 39 years old. When I got elected, was that 4 years ago? Do the math. That's how young I was when I got elected. And when I got elected and I walked into different rooms, none of these conversations happened. And I can honestly say, if I don't win that election and I'm not here, I'm not necessarily sure y'all are in this room today even talking about that. So I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anybody or be pessimistic about our future, but I will say, if you are not at the table now, if you are not at the table to even talk about things that are affecting folks in our community, how can you make change happen? Because prior to me being there, I think the last, and I said it in the council meeting, the last one we had, I think we had, as far as black men, I know we had a black mayor, Terry Butler, but as far as black men at the table, we had Gene Ellison and Herbert Watt. I don't know how long ago that was, but you think about the time frame of 25 to 30 years, and you ask, are we optimistic? What does the opportunity for us look like moving forward? Well, I say within the last 4 years, we've had all of these conversations, and I believe we've had all of these conversations and all these different changes due to people that are at the table. Not just being at the table, but being effective. Not just actually talking about, hey, here's what we need to do, but actually saying, we need to do this and then be effective enough to get other votes to say, hey, we do need to fund this disparity study. Hey, we do have problems in our minority business and women contracting. We need to make sure that that's taken care of. Hey, we do have issues with people with records being hired for the city of Asheville. Hey, even though you're not pushing any sort of policy that may be racist or you think may be racist, there may be some systemic issues going on that you don't even intend to affect anybody that's actually happening that we need to change. And so when you look on the horizon, I'll say this, I don't feel confident that if Al or myself or Shamika or anybody else is here that comes along that is willing to push and fight and piss people off, that these things will be heard in the future, because as soon as I push to get something moved forward, I sometimes see within South the city that there are folks that are trying to roll it back in ways that you can't really put your finger on and say, hey, we push for this policy, we passed this policy. For instance, when y'all walked into this building, you knew the auditorium that once was in just despair. So I served on the committee with Councilwoman Shamika Smith. In the 2 years that I've actually served on that committee, we've allocated more money to black and brown nonprofits than there has ever been in the history of the city of Asheville. And one of those projects was to rebuild and fix this auditorium that's right next door. Another one is GO that's in this building. There are other things that we've given Mr. Lake and his organization money. What I'm getting at is, yes, I could be optimistic and say that things will continue the way they are, but realistically, I don't think there's anybody at the table pushing and willing to do the work that you will see effective change. Because we're talking about 2019, and the last time that anybody, when was the last time that anybody has pushed for any of this stuff? When was the last time you were actually in a room with an African-American black politician talking about your issues? You can elect whoever you want to elect, it's politics. But the people have to actually go in the room and give a damn about you when they're in there. Okay. And that's what it all boils down to. And you know, I don't mind saying that in front of any audience. I'm just being as real as possible, because when I'm in rooms behind closed doors and we talk about issues that affect you, and I'm trying to get 6 or 5 other people in the room to understand where I see things at, and they want to blow past it, and it has happened. And it has happened. You have to bring people back to understand that when you live your life, I'm pretty sure that all of us have different experiences in our lives, especially as black men and women. We all have our experiences in our lives, and there are always things that things that you've been through in your own life that it's hard for you to express to other people who don't look like you. And to be able to help them understand, like, hey, data says that, for instance, data says we're pulling over all these black people for no reason. And for people to look at data and go, yeah, oh well. You have to have somebody there pushing for that stuff. And so when you look at the future for us, you have to be involved. You cannot be complacent. You have to worry about politics. You have to worry about people that are in office. You have to hold people accountable. Not just people that look like me, because what's the term, all skin folk ain't kin folk? Just because I look like you don't necessarily mean I'm fighting for you. I'm not saying that's the case, but what I'm saying is we tend to hold us more accountable than we hold the people that have not addressed any of our concerns for the last 30 years. I've been here for 4 years. I've been addressing concerns, and I want to continue doing that. But what you also have to do is hold everybody else accountable that sits up there with me and sits up there with Al, just the way that you hold us. They should actually be the ones in this room, not us. You know where we're coming from. Those are the people that should actually be here telling you what they're going to do, but you won't see them until it's time to check the vote. So that is the real answer. What does opportunity look like? If you're not at the table, you're not thought about. Even when you're at the table, you're still invisible. So you got to reach out with your invisible hand and slap a couple people and let them know, hey, I'm here. That's what you got to do.
So thank you so much for your honest, candid answers. So we're going to kind of switch around our program in the interest of time, because what we really want to do is get to the meat of why we're here, which is to A, talk about the Mountain Community Capital Fund, and B, have a chance for you all to ask questions directly to Councilman Young and Commissioner Whiteside. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mountain Community Capital Fund. I am standing in the role as the chair of the Mountain Community Capital Fund. This fund is sponsored by city and county government, and they partner with 3 lenders. Some up here today, Self-Help Credit Union, I think Jane Halley's here, you want to wave your hand. Carolina Small Business Fund, we have a representative, and Mountain BizWorks, and there we go. So take a look at who's in the room. This is a good time for you to talk to those people about loans. What we've done is made it possible for black and brown business owners to have access to capital, because historically you may lack collateral for loans, traditional lending. So what we're trying to do is level the playing field, so to speak, my words, and allow black and brown business owners opportunities so that they can scale their business and grow their business and launch their business. So that's the purpose of the fund. It's a loan, it's not a grant, so there's interest rates and loan payments. So I want to be very clear about that, but the goal is to try to make it more accessible for black and brown business owners. And when I was writing what I was going to talk about, I was thinking about young Asheville, growing up in Asheville, and I remember it was not uncommon to see black business owners in various neighborhoods. Downtown, I think about the block, my daddy and I would ride through, and he was always conducting business somewhere on the block, and there were barbershops, hair salons, restaurants. People that come to mind are Erling McQueen, Mr. Wells, Miss Georgia, Mr. Jean, Mr. Green, and they were business owners because they understood that that's how you make change in your community. I love what Commissioner Whiteside said. It's okay to don't worry so much about what's happening in Washington, because if our community was set up like we can set it up here, we wouldn't have to worry about what policies they pass down, because we would be affecting change in our own community. So this is kind of the start of that, to really get you to understand the importance of entrepreneurship. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. What I want to do is, if you have a question for Councilman Young or Commissioner Whiteside, if you'll just raise your hand. We're going to have everybody line up real quick and get questions answered that way. So who has questions? All right, Danielle. You're the only one that's not afraid.
So, a question that I always had about getting loans and funding for your business is that 2-year reporting of what your finances have been like to prove that you can pay debts, et cetera, there's many of them. The way that my bank account is set up sometimes, I'm not always able to pay my bills on time, so that looks on my bank account report, that doesn't reflect well. And I think that is the main obstacle from where I'm standing that I feel like a lot of people have in terms of bridging the gap to actually get the loan, because that's one thing that doesn't differ anywhere. So whether it's Mountain BizWorks, whether it's a bank, you always have to have that 2-year report from your bank that you've been stellar at paying all of your bills. Can you speak to any of that, or how you bridge that gap, or are there ways around it, or can you get receipts from them? I'm just kidding. But honestly, that's one of the main concerns that I have in terms of funding.
I'm smart enough to know that he reached the mic, so you have it. I'm smart enough to know that I'm sitting next to a former vice president of a bank, so I'm going to defer to that.
Yeah. When it comes to let's face it, starting new businesses is not easy, because most of new businesses fail. And it doesn't matter sometimes how much money you have. I've made loans to a lot of trust fund babies, and I've had to go back to that trust fund to collect because they didn't know what they were doing. But I think back when you talk about how, as African Americans, we've had to struggle, let's face it, and true, a lot. We don't have the credit that we should have. But I think it is, we have a lot of groups in the community that will help you with that. And I think first, though, what you need to have, I've talked over the years to many people who want to start a small business. I could easily sit down with them, and I've done it with a lot after hours, to help them, show them what they need to do, the budget, to repair their credit, to turn things around. But what I found, though, before that, you need to make sure you know what business you're going into, and you have a good idea of what you're going to do, and know what you're going to do. And I've stuck my neck out for a lot of businesses, and helped small businesses. A few did make it, but a lot did, and several thrived in the day in the community. But I think the basics is that you make sure that you get the help on the front end to help you. And if they're doing their job as bankers, if they get work with you at the time, they should be able to tell you where you need to go to get help. And if not, I've had several people give me a call, I'll help. I've referred several to banks, buddies I know in banking. I've given them the help because I think it's about, most of the banks that ask about somebody that I hired in banking one time or another. But, we'll be glad to help you to do that. But the key is my dad told me years ago, and I never forgot it. He said, when you're poor, you need to always keep good credit. He said, if you're a millionaire, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the money anyway. You get it. But to answer your question, I think the key is to get the right help up front. And don't waste a lot of time going to banks getting turned down, because this doesn't help you on the credit. Hopefully, you can get help on the front end to help you get in the situation to be successful when you go to the bank.
So then I have a follow-up.
Uh-huh.
So that's great, that's awesome. But I feel for me, a lot of times when you go to financial institutions, they're not going to do that. And a lot of times, I feel like the advice, and it's come through sensitive. So your success is not always taken seriously by someone that might not be your team. If you directing you in a way that's clear and concise, the way you can apply it. I'm a pretty small person, I have to go in the city and talk down to me like I don't understand it. And that will make me not want to do business. But if these are the institutions that are in the city, that people like yourself and people like young folks are holding as far as health, there's something that's not happening.
Well, I'll tell you, give me a call, I'd be glad to help, if I can, and steer you in the right direction. Because that's what it takes sometimes. Now, one of the disadvantages that I see in Baton, when I came along, we had loan limits. I could make loans up to the limit of 5. Today, most places you have to go somewhere else to make a loan. I know the head of one of our local banks told me, blew me away, that he couldn't even make a $100,000 loan. Heck, when I was first union, we could make our loan limit for Asheville, unsecured was $2.5 million, and secured was $5 million. We didn't have to leave the city to make a loan up to that amount. But things have changed now. I know, but still, I think, and I know for us, and they put the hurdles out there, but come, we'll find it there. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. But, and it's not, look, I'm not going to lie to you, but it's not easy, no. But you can't make it so. Yeah.
I'm real quick, I'm gonna follow up on your question. So I've owned 2 small businesses myself, and what I learned from those 2 small businesses were preparation and the services that were provided by my lender. So I got a loan through Mount BizWorks at the time, and that helped me, understand that there are some additional services that may be needed for individuals such as yourself who are coming forward to get these, who want these loans, who want to apply for these loans. I think when we're talking about the Mountain Community Capital, that is a different type of animal that you actually may be able to come get a loan from. That was the whole purpose for folks like you standing up asking these types of questions. How can you get that loan? But I think also, so we talked about policy earlier, something that we've been messing around with is actually providing what I would consider wraparound services to help prepare you for that loan before you actually get that loan and see you through that process to make sure that you're successful, not just be a statistic to say, hey, we gave away all this money to all these black and brown businesses and they all failed. That's not what we want to do. We want to see the businesses be successful. The lenders that are at the table want to see you be successful. The city put in money into this fund along with the county, and we want black and brown businesses to be successful. So it is upon us, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that you have the services that you need, not only to make sure that your credit is right in the beginning, or if it's not right, but we still can get you the loan to make sure that we are providing services with you so we don't default on that loan. So we are helping you become a successful business owner. That is the purpose, not just to give you money, but to have a sustainable business in a community where you are a black or brown face that actually has a successful business that services everybody in the community. We want to see you be successful, and it is incumbent upon us to make sure that happens so we don't lose our investment.
And you might add that we're putting the funds in place from the city and the county to guarantee some of these loans if they do default. And that's, I think, what, from the county, it's $250,000 that we're putting in. I don't know how much from the city. But, so when he mentioned wraparound services, he's right. We're trying to cover on, every end. But the basics of it, he was right. We need to make sure on the front end that we get you ready. And if you go to BizWorks or some of the loan fund and start out small and 25 or 30,000 in that range, hopefully though, once the business starts going, we'll be able to turn you over to one of the financial institutions for a loan.
everyone. My name is Karine. I'm a learning services specialist at Mountain Resort. So I'm not actually on the lending side. I manage our classes and workshops. But I just wanted to address your inquiry, and I also really appreciate that feedback because that is a valid concern. Our mission at Mountain BizWorks is to provide opportunity for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to access them at traditional banks. So speaking to your concern as someone who may have faced financial difficulties, and that is reflected in your record, I do know that Mountain BizWorks, we want to work with entrepreneurs. We want to get you to a place where you are successful and can manage having a loan, because if you're at a place where it's hard for you to pay bills, whether that's your own personal or your own business bills, then we're just saddling you with a debt that you won't be able to pay off, and that's a disservice to you. So that's why we have the learning side, which is to help you become financially skilled to be able to manage your budget. And I know there are several resources in the community as well on track. They'll get you to get the training that you need to be able to manage your personal financials. And I know there are also programs, for example, called the IDA Savings Program. And Mountain BizWorks in partnership with other community organizations like Eagle Street Market and I think maybe Western Women's Business Center. So the IDA Savings Program is a way for people to save money, but also you get matched. So you can get up to $5,000 free. If you are saving money, you'll be matched that dollar amount up to $5,000. So that's a way to build, your credit score and your financial capacity as well. So there are a lot of resources out there to help you get to the place where you can, you can be able to manage a loan. And one more thing, I just wanted to acknowledge what Councilman Ms. Young said. Your voice is a way of coming to the table, and there's conversations out there about slow capital as well, and that's a term that I've been hearing thrown around, and it's capital or a way to access money that allows you to pay slowly. So I'm still looking into that myself, but having all these perspectives and voices, it helps us to start thinking about what's really needed in the community to help people access the opportunities that they need. So, thank you.
How y'all doing? I'm here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm in the middle of a transition. I do have a question for this one. So before I get into that question, if you guys don't mind, I just want to give you a small nation. It's an ongoing problem, but the barriers can't be broken. Based on what the program is. Okay, I'm re-entering into society. Decided to move down here and relocate with my family, stepchildren, try to earn honest living, and at the same time try to establish my own business. I wasn't really welcome. I thought down south was going to be more hospitable, but during my time away, I did have the opportunities to pursue my education and follow my business trades. College, certification in different trades and whatnot. When I got here to North Carolina, I found that there was many barriers. I couldn't use any of my certifications, any of my licenses here. So, then it goes on to entering into society. I met this young man over here, Mr. Philip Cooper from the Upscale Foundation, and Mr. Hayes here at Cooper. These two brothers have been very instrumental with me getting repositioned back in society, but they still don't have the resources to help young entrepreneurs who's re-entering society with a different mindset. The mindset is, nowadays, it isn't to get back out here on the street, out here hustling, it isn't to go and rob the percentage of individuals incarcerated who are actually rehabilitating themselves, I'm gonna repeat that, rehabilitating themselves are actually starting home with real goals. And the goals is reality, because a lot of us is coming home to families. Our children are 15, 16 years older than what they were when we was here, so it's like, okay, I need to be a good example. So my thing is this, when I got here to North Carolina, I met Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper said, what's your goal? What's your agenda? He was right on. I explained, I said, listen, I'm trying to reposition myself. I can't do none of my certifications, none of that down there. He said, well, what you want to do? I said, well, I'd like to go to trucking school. So he helped position me into trucking school. Went to the trucking school, completed, got my CDL, couldn't find a new job. I called, I don't know how many people I called, I didn't burn Indeed now, they text me now, like, we got your message third time, like, can you slow down a little bit? But he's seen how my struggle was. So he stuck with me, basically gave me one. Helped see me through, asked me what did I need, things of that nature, referred me to Mr. Hayes, I went over to Goodwill, got me a couple business outfits, a couple shirts, ties, things of that nature, and it really helped. Now, my overall goal is to start a barbering school here. I'm a certified barber instructor in the state of Pennsylvania, and I am in the process now of trying to transition my certifications and licenses over here, but they won't endorse it. Right now, Mr. Cooper is instrumental in that also. So my question to Mr. Young is, like, do you guys have any systems in place, like, because what they basically do from what I'm seeing, they have a team, and the team is like an incubator, but they don't have the resources that they need to help the individuals with, whatever certifications they have, the licenses, to put them in a position to start their own business. But they do have, like, the right mind state, they can put you in a different direction. So I'm asking, like, do you guys have any type of incubator that can help a young entrepreneur who wants to start his own business, be integrated into society? I mean, there's a lot of roadblocks, but at the same time, like I said, I was able to be blessed, thank God. I met these guys, and they helped. So now I'm currently working with the city of Asheville. Thank you, Asheville. Thank you so much. And I'm still trying to pursue my dreams of owning my own business. So where I come from, they have what's called incubators that normally help individuals, start up and things like that. So I just wanted to know, like, also what the young lady said about the loan situation. Like, a lot of our criminal backgrounds, that affects us too. So even though we have the intention, the drive, and motivation, it's like we can only reach out to whoever we know that may be able to point us in the right direction. But if these guys don't have the resources, how can we get there?
Thank y'all for saying that over there.
Shout out to Mr. Cooper and Mr. Hayes. Mr. Cooper is I don't know, Mr. Cooper is everywhere. I walk out the courthouse and sometimes I turn the corner and he's right there, boom, and he's already out there something. Hey, look, I got a job, somebody to talk to me. It's good. To answer your question, that is something that has been on the horizon policy-wise as far as, and it's been talked about as far as providing some sort of incubator, and I see you holding up the paperwork. Is that for me? No? Oh, okay. So to answer your question, there has been some talks about doing some of those things. As far as getting capital for your business, getting capital where you want to be. As far as business incubation, that is something that you can talk about. That is something that is on the horizon. That is something that I personally would like to see happen. Where that sits with the council members right now, I don't know. But it's not something that is affirmative right now that we actually have in place. And we don't necessarily have a solid policy around what that looks like, because we are actually still in the early stages of getting out our first loan on our community capital. That hasn't happened yet. So it's there for the sake of you It's not there for you right now from the city of Asheville. I would hope that in the near future it would be. I'm appreciative that you asked your question, because now it puts it in my mind, okay, I need to start trying to do something on this level to make sure that we are moving in that direction. So maybe we should be in contact after this and talk about what your situation is, and definitely kudos to you for what you're doing on your own personal life. So that's great.
And I'd like to say too, in the county, we are looking at that. And one of the things that we're doing now, one of the concerns is the former sheriff came to us and was telling us that we will need a new jail in Asheville, which would come to about $50 million. Well, we said right off, thank goodness all the initiatives, we said, look at what we can do with $50 million to keep people out of jail. So what we're trying to do now at the county, we got a plan for the MacArthur Foundation, that's what $1.7 million. We're doing a lot to look at that, and that's one of the things that we are discussing, is because we are seeing too many people come out of prison and end up back in because there's nothing for them to do outside. But here again, that's something that we got to do. I think we see it as a must in the county because, like I said, we can't keep them in prison. That's the last thing we do. But we can take that same money and really make it work, maybe with a loan fund or something, or help businesses like you. And I've met matter of fact, I owe you a phone call too. I'll talk to you. But yeah, we've got to do something. And who that's affecting is people who look like us.
Can I do something real quick? I just want to let y'all know, right? North Carolina right now is like a rebuilding state for me. Where I come from, it's 23 penitentiaries in a single state. Where I come from, it's 23 penitentiaries in one state. Everybody knows Pennsylvania is known for their steel. That manufacturing industry moved overseas. So their new industry now is the penal system. And they are establishing them and erecting them as fast as you can think about it. All the neighborhoods are being demolished, rebuilt. Black folks, brown folks, yellow folks is being disenfranchised and being relocated to who knows where. So this is the only reason why I approach you guys the way I do, because I want to be clear out of the way of that. I want to be a productive citizen. I want to be able to get back and help those who didn't know the way or who's trying to know the way.
Hey, I'm Shanita. I'm from the Western Women's Business Center. I do not have a background in business at all. I have a background and a degree in African and African American Studies from Berea College. So when I got hired in this position, I was very, very much out of my comfort zone. I'm navigating a very whitewashed business arena. But the one thing that I've kept in mind is my degree and my passion for African American people. So I'm working on the 2020 calendar, and I want to know what we're lacking in the community. So far, I've seen a literacy gap and an educational gap. Our people are lacking or not equipped with the tools to build the chair, to make the seat and pull up at the table. So I'm trying to figure out how we address that part, that very basic part. If anybody has any topics that they want to throw my way, please let me know. I'm going to stay after and I'll write them all down. I'll take your emails. But moving forward in 2020, I want to see what workshops and events can be offered to the Black community to strengthen us. So,
Hey, I'm Julia. Julia Steve Thomas, my business, so you can have some of my friends today. I'm a part of this community from generations ago. My grandfather was Joe Green, the boxer that's here. But what I find when I never ask you because every time I would go for an interview here, it always came down to me and another person. And the other person would always do the job. And so I left here to better myself so that I could come back. But what I found when I come back is that my business does well, but what I found is that they don't take, say I go to bid on an event. They feel like, when they talk to me over the phone, they think that they're talking to someone else. But when they meet me in person, they see who I am and what I'm about. And so, therefore, they try to not come to the table with what I know I'm worth, or what I know my product is worth. And so, I've had to turn down a lot of business for my business because I'm here to make money, not to be taken advantage of. And so, therefore, I'm having a hard time now because I need a commercial kitchen. And I went through the Mountain View Sports program, and I did the entrepreneurship program, and I also did the IBA, the money match. I did that. It's not a grant. What it is you have to spend that amount of money for them to reimburse you that amount of money, and you save a certain amount of money for that year. And I did that, and I bought stuff for my business. But now, I guess my question is, where do I find the funds now? My business is up and running. It's been running here for 3 years now, but I did it in Charlotte and in Atlanta far longer, so I knew the different steps to take. But I want to know where I go. I don't want to be in debt, so therefore, I go to different events, and some people tell me that, oh, we wrote an essay and we got a grant for $5,000. I want to know where those things are because I want to go into my business being in debt. I'm not in debt and I don't want to be. I want to establish a business that succeeds and successful.
Right.
That's an interesting question. So are you asking, are you looking specifically for grants and not loans?
Yeah, because grants we don't have to pay back.
Right.
And there's many of those here. And I went to a fundraiser for Mountain View University, and I was there, and I was on the meeting to about people there. But I was so interacted with the people there and found out, and I thought about how I said, you know, hey, I got great money, I got $5,000 and I wrote an essay or my business, or I, competed for this and I competed for that. So if I don't know where those
Right.
things were, then I'm missing out.
That's something I have to settle. I have your information. Can I get with you offline about that?
Yes. We have, are you familiar with the tipping point grants for the county? Yeah, we have them. They don't help you with, because for amounts like that, 5,000, we do have it. I don't know what, did she miss this go around when is? Yeah, they just announced it, but we do have it for it. Yeah.
So we've heard questions, we've got answers, so at this time, I want to ask a legend in our midst, Mr. Bicota, if he would come up and just talk about long-term business and just kind of tell you all what that looks like. So, Mr. Bicota.
I didn't come expecting this. However, since you asked me, I will share with you the best that I've got. But I guess I will have to say historically, in our community, we haven't had the kind of participation to the financial resources that's needed for minority, particularly black minority businesses. We did start a loan pool back some years ago with $13,000 in bank just to put it in perspective, to let you know how the folks around here felt about loans for our business. The loan pool did very well. It lost $2,000 out of $13,000. Then after that, we started the banks, or we had 7 banks, we could take one loan from a minority business, black minority business. That's what will work very well. But I guess I want to really get to this point, and that is, when you go to the banks, we go to the banks, and we cannot get loans, then we have to look for the alternative. And the alternative normally is something like today we have Mountain Bismarck Self-Help Credit Union, who are doing a great job of assisting businesses in putting a business plan together and getting started with some limited funds. I might say this, Self-Help Credit Union in 1991, I think also when it came here, and got itself off the ground, has done a relatively good job of helping many businesses, minority businesses, black minority businesses, and what I have asked them to do, and I've also talked to Mr. Whiteside about it, I've talked to people at the city council about we've got to find a way to come up with funding, chance funding, meaning that you don't qualify to bank, and you remain just outside of Self-Help Credit Union, Mountain Bismarck, but an entity that will take that next step to give you an opportunity to borrow some money at reasonable rates and pay the money back. Because unless you have timely money in your small business, it's impossible for you to go forward in a new business and or with an ongoing business. I listened to the questions that have been asked today, and those questions were asked from years ago. I listened to the gentleman that talked about his experience in Pennsylvania, I believe it is, and why he's here, and the obstacles that he has confronted. I also listened to our councilman, when we talked about the disparity study. The disparity study that caused the city to open its eyes a little bit, the county, and of course, tax period. Well, we did the disparity study in 1993. We came with the same information in 1993, almost we did in 2016. Disparity studies are good, but all that's doing is just telling you that they've got an inequitable system for people of color in your community, and you need to do better. That's where the county now, I believe, is taking a very close look at it, and hopefully they're going to come up with a better system to assist minority, black businesses, other businesses. But we are the ones that have the hardest problem, the biggest problem, when it comes to getting sufficient capital. When it comes to the place where we're willing to step outside the box of that in order to help a business. If we don't step outside the box, the business is not going to do very well because of the fact that when we look at the demographics that we need for support our business, historical businesses do very well. But when we get outside of historical businesses, such as in the computers and the boating, at the mall, real estate companies, when we get into those areas, that's when we run into trouble getting sufficient funds, timing, in order to grow those businesses. Start and grow. What I would love to see today, I'd love to see more of us going to the city council, going to the county commission, and take our time and present a project to them that they can buy and come aboard in our city and make it entirely different from anything we've spent before. They've got to be willing to take a chance. We have got to be willing to force them to take a chance. If we are together, many of them will come aboard and take a chance. So I would say it's left up to us really to come together and go forward to those entities, banks, city, county, or any other market agency, and not demand, but say, this is what you all need to do to make us whole in this economic climate today.
So with the loan program you were talking about, what's called it?
Mountain Community Capital Fund.
So you said it's
The lenders are Self-Help Credit Union, Mountain Biz Work, and Carolina Small Business Fund.
okay, so if we're a business and we go up to get business, do you feel like we don't get the service that we desire? Who's we held accountable for us not receiving? Because I think it's just in terms of I've busy on our digital programs, and sometimes I think the language can go with some people saying that because we are such few black people in that room, and we feel like, okay, we're not going to say anything, we don't embarrass ourselves in front of those who are not, in front of our people. So we let things go, and then we get the coach doesn't look like that sometimes, I understand what we're trying to accomplish, and they continue to use language that, when they're ready for. We understand that there's certain language that you have to have, which is normal, but if we go through that process, and then we go, okay, so we're going to go to self-help, and then somebody comes out and how self-help says, well, we're going to use the process. Should there be an accountability piece to that, or is there an accountability piece?
That's a great question, and I don't have a real answer, but I can tell you this. The committee, Dee Williams is here, she's on the committee with me, and Sam Powers or Zana Mulcahy is here. If you are finding that you're running into difficulty and you don't feel like you're being treated fair in the lending process that's set up for you, then you can come to talk to Commissioner Whiteside, Councilman Young, any of us as committee members, and we can hold to a certain extent. We can make them give us answers as to why your experience was that way. As far as this fund is concerned, because that's what it was designed for.
So everybody, I want to first of all thank Commissioner Whiteside for being here, dedicating his time, Councilman Young, all of you guys for showing up. I want to thank again the chefs and the cook in the back of the business, and I will be getting with you to talk with you further. For those who don't know, I work for Buncombe County. I do run a nonprofit, but I'm on the county's time now, so I am a community engagement social worker for the county, okay? I've been with the county for 17 years. I want to thank Mr. McCope for what he just said. Let me just say this real quick in closing. Mr. Whiteside can contest to this. My dad, he did a lot in this community, okay? Everybody knows being late, throwing rocks in somebody's direction, and pops. I also played pro basketball, been in the county for 17 years on a nonprofit, been doing a lot of boots on the ground work, and kind of building my own legacy in this community for a long time. As an African-American male in Asheville, North Carolina, there's still a glass ceiling that I cannot get through. With my father's legacy, with my legacy, as an African-American male, there's still limits that I can't get through. So I appreciate what you said, Mr. McCoy. Ladies and gentlemen, what we got to start doing, when we're talking about lending and funding and all this kind of stuff, it's not going to really matter, in my opinion, unless we're supporting one another. So we got to start showing up at, again, city council meetings, like you suggested, commissioner meetings, showing up and demanding what we need. Like, it can't just be, one or two of us showing up. Like, I can guarantee you, if we have 15 or 20 of us showing up at a meeting, what they're going to do is they're going to pull Mr. Whiteside to the back and say, why are they here? Why are all them people out there in the audience? What are they doing? If we stick together and we show up at these meetings, and we're there, we don't even have to say nothing. We don't even have to say nothing. Hey, look, Mr. White, can we talk to you in the back, Commissioner? why are all these black and brown people in the audience out there? And what do we need to do? And I mean, and that's how we get it done. We start there, and then once we get in these meetings, we can start voicing our opinions. Councilman Young said it, and Commissioner Whiteside said it. They're only two individuals. They go by what we say. And so when we're there in these forums talking about what we need, they have no choice but to listen. We are all taxpayer citizens. They have to listen to what we say. And so, but this is the thing. Let me say this. I'm saying we need to come, but if we do come, we need to come unified and together. We can't have disjoint, we can't have people talking about one thing and then in the meeting, I'll be quiet, you can know, we gotta be unified and together when we come and be, five fingers and five individuals, but as a fist, we can be strong and unified, and then we can start seeing results as to what we need in this community. That's my 2 cents, folks. First of all, again, let me thank Rosanna in the back for being here and putting this together. I will be in the back talking to people. If you need my information, I'll be more than happy to give it to you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Let Michelle know. Shavonda, she thank her for allowing us to use the space. She's trying to hide over there. And I'm going home with my baby. Let me come on, little girl. Let's get up out of here. And last but not least, if you don't know people who have businesses, I would encourage you to get business cards and meet one another because you might be able to do business together.